All right, guys. All right, teammates. I am here. It's just me today. You're stuck with just me. So I like to make these things kind of conversational. So make sure as you come on here, you let me know what you're thinking. Say hi. You got a comment? You got anything to say about what I'm saying? Good, bad, or otherwise? I'd love to hear it. Right? I love good discussions and stuff like that. And today, I know I took a tagline from a major company, but today we're going to be talking about just do it because I found that in my martial arts teaching that I've had to have this conversation with several students across the past month, and it happens to be discipline week here, so it all ties together. And I thought, you know what, it's a good life lesson, so I think I'll bring it up to everybody. Fact of the matter is it's really easy to be excited about something when it's new. It's really easy to be excited about getting something new, about learning something new, or whatever it might be. When something is new, it's easy to get excited about it. The longer that you do it or the longer that you have something, the easier it becomes to take it for granted a little bit and be a little less grateful about it because it's just there. It's there all the time, right? Or maybe if it's something we experience a lot of, it begins to get boring because it's like, well, I've done this before, I've done this before, I've done this before. The thing is if you're always just chasing that excitement of learning something new, sure, there are tons and tons of new things to learn in the world, but you're going to have a difficult time getting good at any one thing, right? Which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it does make it difficult when you really want to get good at something. Because fact of the matter is you can learn something in 10 to 50 repetitions or running across it or finding ways to apply it. You can learn it relatively quick, but to get really good at it, it takes using it thousands and thousands of times, which can just until it becomes second nature. So this is something to do with martial arts. So sometimes, that can begin to feel boring, can feel repetitious, like you're having to do the same things over and over. Well, that's when motivation is left. And here's the fact of the matter is no matter what you do, motivation will not be there the entire time. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be fitness, it could be a sport, it could be a job, it could be a career, whatever. Motivation is not going to stay. Motivation is a fleeting emotion that comes in and it goes, right? But if there's something that you enjoy doing and it's something that you enjoy learning to a certain point, here's another thing. No matter how much you enjoy something, there's always going to be aspects of it you don't like. No matter how much you like doing something, there's going to be parts of it that you dislike. There's going to be parts of it that you don't like to do. That's just pretty normal for pretty much anything that you want to do, right? So motivation can disappear really quickly. It can be a very fleeting emotion, and that's when if you want to get good at something and you really enjoy something enough that it's worth dealing with the parts that you don't want to deal with, it's worth dealing with the boring bits, it's worth going ahead and doing those things, then that's when discipline takes over. So when we talk about discipline, we talk about always trying your best, especially when you don't feel like it, and especially when you don't want to, because to get really good at anything, it's almost got to be a habit. It almost has to become part of your routine. It's just like 2 days a week I get up and I do 100 sit-ups, or 3 days a week I get up and I go for a run, or on these particular days a week before I go to the bed I do some stretches, or on these days of the week I do this while I'm having lunch. Whatever it might be, you really want to get great at something, you've got to make it part of your routine. It has to be something that you use all the time, that you use daily. We talk about this a lot when it comes to like black belts in martial arts, because a lot of people, no matter what you tell them, when they get to that black belt, they'll all think, I'm going to continue, I'm going to keep going, I'm not going to be that guy that quits. And yet, 90% of them do. 90% of them quit when they get to that point because they see it as a goal that is achieved. But 10 years down the road, they look back and they go, man, I've lost so much of that skill. I've lost so much of my ability to do these things that I once could. And then it can often lead to regret, in those cases. I wish I would have kept up with it, but I didn't. And that's okay, right? I'm not judging anybody or anything along those lines. But what I am saying is that you can't always just chase the new and exciting things, because motivation doesn't stay forever. So therefore, if you want to continue to do something that you enjoy most of the aspects of, you have to take the parts that you don't really like either. You've got to accept the parts that aren't as fun, the parts that are a little more repetitious, the parts that are a little more boring or something like that. And that's when that discipline comes in. Having that discipline to go, I don't want to do it today, but I'm going to do it anyway. Adults have to use discipline all the time. I don't want to do laundry, but it's got to be done. I don't want to make the bed, but it's got to be done. I don't want to do the dishes, but it's got to be done. I don't want to cook, but it's got to be done. Somebody's got to do it, right? That's discipline. right? And then once you get started, try your best at it. So what I say is when you're really, really struggling with that discipline, there's no motivation, and you really don't want to do something, the easiest thing to do is stop looking at how long it's going to take you, stop looking at all the things you're going to have to do to complete it, and start just taking that one step at a time. Just start doing it, right? If it's doing the dishes, then just start. Just pick up a cup, rinse it out, put it in the dishwasher, and then once you've started, your brain kind of gets this, well, I'm already here. While I'm here, I might as well. That might as well is a great source of discipline that can help you through when you're struggling with your discipline. Is that might as well. I got started, I might as well finish it, right? So as you guys come on here, let me know your thoughts. I'm getting to the point of this conversation that I've had with several students over a while, because we often get those students that really love what they're doing. They get really, really excited about it. But then after a couple of months, they're like, hey, why am I not learning something new every week? Well, because at a certain point, you got to stop and get better at the things you already know. You can't just keep learning something new without practicing the fundamentals and basics that those new things are built on. If you continue to just try to learn that new stuff, then eventually, really quickly actually, you're going to run into something you can't do. You're going to run into something you can't learn because you haven't built the fundamentals, because you haven't built the groundwork that those new and exciting things stand on. You have to continue to practice the things that you already know, continue to train the things you already know, continue to use them and apply knowledge that you already have, right? Because that's the biggest thing I think people run into when it comes to the martial arts, is when they get to that point where they're not learning something new every week. Instead, they're having to practice those same old things. And like I say, that's where discipline comes in. Now, there's another level to that, though. So, I found these stats to be true with martial arts. I'm pretty sure they're true with almost anything. But out of every 10,000 people that start something, that start a hobby, start a project, or whatever, only 10 people will probably ever get really good at it. And those are because those are the 10 people that have the discipline to work on it and do it and learn about it even when they don't want to, even when they don't feel like it, because they really want to be good at it, because they really want to be known as being good at it, because whatever it is that makes them so they really want to get to the end result, they will deal with whatever obstacles come in their way with a moderate amount of discipline, to the point that they do it anyway. They take care of their business anyway. They practice anyway, whatever it is, right? But only 10 out of 10,000. And it's really shocking for me to have seen those stats in doing what I do, but I have found those stats to be very, very true. Only 10 in 10,000 will get really, really good at what they're doing. But here's a more fascinating statistic to me. 1 out of those 10, meaning 1 out of 10,000, will discover something that I feel like everybody in the world could get some good out of practicing. 1 in that 10, 1 in 10,000 will discover that they don't have as much fun when things are easy. So this is something I try to point out to my students all the time. When they play video games, I talk to kids a lot, right? So when they're playing video games, I say, is it any fun when it's really easy, or would you prefer it to be a little bit of a challenge? Would you prefer to have the risk of losing, or the risk of losing, dying in the game, or some sort of risk that makes it a challenge because that makes it feel better when you accomplish it? Would you rather your game be more challenging, or would you rather it be super easy? And fact of the matter is, even most kids can understand that if a game is too easy, they don't want to play it because it gets boring. If a game is too challenging, they can also see it as getting boring because, well, it's challenging. And so you have to try to keep working the same things over and over and train the same things over and over until you get good. But let me get back to my 1 in 10,000. But that 1 in 10,000, I've learned, there's 1 in 10,000 people who don't just have the discipline to push through, but who have a different mentality completely about things. I've had the honor of having 2 students in all the years that I've taught martial arts. I've had 2 students who would be the 1 in 10,000, because they learned something. They learned that the harder the challenge, the more fun it is. And they learned to use that to help themselves push through when they need discipline to do something that they don't want to do. They've learned how to challenge themselves at a higher level, so when something gets bored, they just add a challenge to it for themselves. They don't wait on somebody else to challenge them more. They go ahead and add a challenge to themselves. And these are the people that have learned to enjoy the challenge, that have learned to enjoy when it's not fun, that have learned to enjoy when it hurts a little bit, that have learned to enjoy that process. And when a person can learn to enjoy getting better at something, and the painful losses and the painful steps it takes, and all the time learning and all the time putting into practice or whatever it is, when a person can learn to enjoy that, they can learn to enjoy anything. Uncomfortable fact of life is that setbacks happen to everybody all the time. Setbacks are going to be a normal part of life. Now, some people will become very helpless about it. I don't know what to do. Or maybe they'll even victim blame or take the victim mentality and blame someone else and say, oh, this so-and-so should have to do this for me. So-and-so should have to take care of it for me. Some people deal with it like that. Some people get frustrated. I talked about this in my last podcast. Some people will get frustrated. And we talked about ways of dealing with that anger. But that 1 in 10,000 I'm talking about, that's the person who learns to get excited when other people would feel helpless or get frustrated. That's the person that gets excited to go, oh, this is a big challenge. Oh, this is a big obstacle. And I'm excited to see if I can handle it. I'm excited to see if I can deal with it. I'm excited to train and push through to get to a point where I can handle it. Those people, to me, in my opinion, they have the keys to happiness right there, because if you can be happy no matter what the challenge, setback, or obstacle in your way is, if you can be excited about that and you can use your discipline to push through that, then you can be excited about anything. You can use your discipline about anything, then you have the tools to get good at anything. You have the tools to be happy no matter what you're doing, and I think that's incredible. The weird part is I would think it'd be more than 1 out of 10,000, but most of what I've seen, yeah, about 1 in 10,000 people. Oh, I got a comment. It's me. My discipline needs more discipline. Yeah, no joke. And I'm not saying I'm any master at this, right? Like, I'm the same way. I sometimes let my discipline slack. I sometimes slack on some discipline. I usually for me, it's time constraints. It's like, okay, well, I have to let go a little bit on this to grab something over here, right? And work on this a little bit more. But what I do try to do is make sure that I'm always pushing at something. But it's a big lesson I try to teach my martial arts students. I say, well, whether you learn punches and kicks from me or not, I couldn't care less. Whether you learn how to defend yourself, I honestly couldn't care less. What I'd love for you to learn, though, is these life skills, such as how to use discipline when motivation disappears, and then take that a step farther. How to use challenges to make those difficult situations fun and exciting, the same way we would do it at a video game. If we were able to look at setbacks in our life the same way the kids are able to look at setbacks in a video game as a fun challenge to overcome, oh my goodness, our lives would feel so much better, wouldn't they? If we can look at every setback that happens as, oh, it'll be fun to overcome this one. Oh, this will be an enjoyable test of my toughness. Oh, this will be a fun test of my resiliency. This will be a fun test of my creative ability. This will be a fun test of my problem solving. Whatever it is, if we can start to look at it that way, then we can truly enjoy life. Because the fact of the matter is there's always setbacks. Setbacks are a part of life. If you can enjoy the setbacks, you can enjoy anything. And that's incredible to me that people can do that. I think it's something that can be learned, right? I do believe it's a learned behavior, and I think it's something that is difficult. I think it's one of those things you have to train, just like anything else. Sometimes you have a kid, a young child, who gets the idea younger than most people get it. Mr. Axel would be a good example of that. So you can see him pushing through hard training. You can see him doing stuff with tears on his eyes, but he will refuse to quit. And in the end, he'll be doing it with a smile on his face and be like, look what I did. I did something that most people would never be able to handle. And he takes a lot of pride in the way he handles those setbacks. And therefore, he starts to see challenges as being more and more fun. The harder the challenge, the more fun it is to him. Oh, I can't start a business because I'm 7 years old. Well, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to start a business. That's what he did, right? He looks at life that way. And when you can look at life that way, oh my goodness, like your quality of life depends entirely on what you think of as quality. But I think most people think of quality as peace, joy, enjoyment, excitement, adventure, things like that. And if we can learn to look at the setbacks and the negatives in our life in the same way that we look at setbacks and negative, kids look at setbacks and negatives in video games as something fun to overcome, a fun challenge to overcome, can you imagine what your quality of life would look like then? You know what I mean? And it all starts with discipline, right? Well, let me take that back. It all starts with motivation. It all starts with a motivation. I want to do this. I want to learn this. I want to gain this skill. Whatever it is, it starts with some motivation to do it. But the fact of the matter is motivation is not enough to get you to finish it. It's enough to get you to start, but it's never enough to get you to finish or to get you to a certain point. Or like in things like sports and martial arts, we strive for perfection, but perfection does not exist, right? Perfection isn't even a real thing. So there's always that constant improvement to strive for. And so that can begin to feel daunting, right? Or especially when we have that realization that we're not always going to be learning something new. A lot of times we're going to be working on things we already know. We're going to be learning maybe new things about things we already know. We're going to be learning how to make them better. We're going to learn how to train them better. We're going to be doing stuff like that. And sometimes that's when people get bored. That's when people get to this, oh, I don't know if I want to do it because, this is hard and it's a slog. And they forget how much they enjoyed the learning process. The fact of the matter is, when something gets hard, when it gets boring, when it gets repetitious, if you can enjoy the motivation you had towards the learning process and remind yourself that this is just an obstacle that you have to overcome in order to get back to the part of it you enjoy and learn something new that you can do with it, then great. It's like I said at the beginning of this video. There's no point in constantly learning something new because, let's take martial arts, for example. Let's say you learn a front kick, and then you learn a round kick, and then you learn a jump front kick and a jump round kick, and then you learned a 360 round kick. Well, by the time you get to that 360 or even those jump kicks, you're not going to be very good at them. Why? Because you never went back to practice your original front kick and round kick, the fundamentals, the basics that the more intrinsic movements are built upon. If you never go back to get better at those and improve those, you keep just trying to learn new ways to do it, then eventually, really quickly, you're going to run into something, a version of it that you can't do. You're going to run into a version of it that you're really going to struggle with, or it's really going to look bad because you can kind of do it, but you never really practice the fundamental pieces. The fundamental pieces you have to be able to do in order to be able to do it. You have to be able to jump. You have to be able to jump and turn at least 180 degrees. Then you have to be able to jump on one leg and turn 180 degrees and land on one leg. Then you have to have your other leg in the air. Then you have to have that hip flexibility to have the leg in the proper position, have the knee at the right angle, and then you have to have all that, right? You have to be able to spin on the ball of your foot. There's all these things that you have to practice to get good at the advanced thing. So what's the point in jumping straight through new thing to the most advanced thing instead of taking some time to learn how to do those simple things, the jump, turn, the spinning on the ball, the feet, etc. And I'm talking martial arts here, but you guys know as well as I do, this can be applied to anything, literally anything. Job, career, relationships, hobbies, interests, it doesn't matter. You can apply this anywhere to anything. So when that motivation runs out because you've come to realize that you're not going to be able to learn this thing you want to learn until you get better at these things that you have to repeat and have some fun with. And this is why we build our classes the way we do. Like, our classes are very fun based. We try to turn everything into games. We try to have a lot of games to play to hide the repetition and stuff like that. But at a certain point, at a certain rank, particularly by advanced ranks, the idea is to show people that you can have fun with the different ways of repeating the same things over and over again. But we still have those students who are like, I get that it's all in different games, but all these games and stuff, they're all working on the same thing, and I'm bored with working on that thing, and it's repetitious, so I think I want to quit, or I think I want to move on to something else. And that's fine. But if you're always doing that, then you're moving on to something else, and then the second you have an obstacle and you have to go back to the fundamentals, you're going to go, I'm bored with this, and you're going to move on to something else, and you go, I'm bored with this, you're going to move on to something else, and you're going to have a very difficult time getting great at anything, or you're even really getting good at anything, right? That takes that, you have to build that foundation, and that foundation is built on repetition. You can do the repetition in fun ways. You can find fun challenges and fun ways to do it. So like I was telling one of my students the other day, he was saying, well, I'm really tired. We've been working on the same techniques for 3 weeks, and I'm just tired of working on this set of techniques. And I say, all right, well, challenge yourself. If I hold the pad for you to hit it at your waist level, try to kick over the pad. Try to lift your leg as high as you can and hold it. Try to hit harder. Try to see if you can start to move the bags when you hit it. Challenge yourself to something bigger. And this is on anything, job, career, or whatever. If it's getting boring and repetitious, try to challenge yourself to do something above that. And this is what I found that the 1 in 10,000 do. Like I say, the 10,000 people that start something, only 10 will get really, really good at it, and only one of them will learn how to enjoy it. The 10 that get really good at it are the ones that have the discipline take over, I'm going to try my best, I'm going to do it anyway, I'm going to make it part of my routine whenever something gets hard or repetitious. And they look forward and they go, well, I need to do this because I know that in a year of doing this, I'm going to be where I want to be. And then I can start a new routine, then a new thing to be working on, and keep upping my level, right? 10 and 10,000 understand that. But one in those 10, so one in those 10,000 will learn how to always challenge themselves more and enjoy that challenge. Enjoy the process of getting from what I'm able to do today to what I want to be able to do next year, and enjoy every step along the way by challenging themselves to do more than the other people doing what they're doing, to do it different than the other people that are doing what they're doing, to add on a little bit, to bring some personal flavor to it, right? Things along those lines. That 1 in 10,000 that learns to enjoy those challenges can learn to enjoy anything, because life is based on challenges. Life is based on setback. That's what sports are all about, right? Why do you think we watch sports? Why do you think sports are such a big deal? Why do you think we watch competitions of all varieties, right? Why do you think those are so big for people to watch and spectators, right? Because we love to see and experience conflict. We mostly love to see conflict. We like to see our team do well. We like to see an underdog do well. Like we like to see that conflict. The thing is those people that we're watching do that, they are those usually 1 or 10 in 10,000 that have the discipline to push through farther than most people would and enjoy that challenge. So they enjoy being a part of the conflict itself because they know they're really, really good at that conflict, whereas spectators just enjoy watching the conflict because it is mirroring the fact that they run into conflicts every day. They run into issues and conflicts all the time. So sports kind of mirror those same conflicts, and then we love to see other people work hard and make it. Well, there's a lesson to be learned here in the fact that if we do what those pro athletes do, and we bring that into whatever we're doing, we bring that discipline to make it part of our routine, to remind myself that I'm doing this 3 days a week. I'm running 3 days a week because in a year I want to be able to run 2 miles in 15 minutes, or I'm doing push-ups 3 days a week because in a year I want to be able to do 200 of them in a row, or I'm doing whatever it is. We got to keep our eye on that and make it part of the routine, right? Make it part of the normal, and that'll get us there. That'll become, then you can be one of the 10 in 10,000. But to me, I think the thing to strive for is to be the 1 in 10,000 who learns to enjoy that challenge and that process along the way. So instead of just doing, 50 push-ups a day, they'll do 50 and go, I think I could do 5 more. And they'll push themselves a little farther. And then, why they're so happy about it? Because they feel proud. They're proud of what they accomplished. They're proud of the fact that they went farther than what was expected of them. They're proud of the fact that they went farther than what they expected of themselves, than their original goal. And then they feel that pride, and they bring that pride into every new practice, every new discipline that they have to do. So they begin to enjoy the boring. They begin to enjoy the repetitious because they don't just do it over and over because they have to. They find ways to challenge and make it harder. They find ways to improve on it one step, one piece at a time. And like I said, if you can learn to enjoy that level of challenge, you can learn to enjoy that level of obstacle and that level of difficulty, then you can learn to enjoy just about anything you do in life. So once again, I'd love to hear what you guys' thoughts are on this. I just wanted to bring it up since it was something I've talked to several of my students about recently who have a habit of, they're great and motivated when they're learning something new, but the second they're not learning something new, they disappear. They don't want to come. They don't want to practice. They don't want to train, or they come to the floor and they just don't really try their best. But that's when that discipline comes in, right? And that reminder that you can continue to learn new stuff. You can continue to learn really cool stuff. You can continue to learn how to apply really new, really cool stuff. But first, sometimes you have to stop and work on those fundamentals. You got to stop and work on the basics that those big things are built on. So until I see you guys again, be the best teammate you can be.